At such a time in the pandemic, a film was made which shook many of us up because it questioned us and our role that we have to play in this tragedy. Kireet Khurana's series of Pravasi, Safar and Samvidhan were a much needed shake-up that we all needed. He has won more than 30 awards, including 6 prestigious presidents' national medals and national awards for his films, and chose to bring the spotlight on narratives that we need to see and hear. We also have with him for this conversation Anshu Gupta, a founder and firebrand leader of Goonj, who most of us know. And for years and years, he's been repeatedly saying what a massive disaster we have been sitting on because we don't value human life. Goonj is also one of those organizations that have some extraordinary work spanning over decades, but also during the pandemic. And to lead this conversation is none other than Faye D Souza, one of the most admired feminist journalists, a personal favorite of mine, who's never shied from speaking of the truth. And I leave you all to enjoy this conversation. But first, let's take a look at what Kireet has brought to us.
हम तो बस प्रवासी हैं, क्या इस देश के वासी हैं? अगर हम नहीं हैं इंसान तो मार दो हमें, दे दो फरमान। खाने को तो कुछ ना मिल पाया, भूख लगी तो डंडा खाया। फासले तय किए हजारों मील के, कुछ साइकिल पर, कुछ पैर नंगे। मरे कई भूख से और कई धूप से, पर हिम्मत ना टूटी बड़ों के झूठ से। बस से भेजकर, रेल से भेजकर, जान खो बैठे रास्ते भूलकर। यहाँ प्रतिमाओं की बड़ी है हस्ती, पर इंसानों की जान है सस्ती। बड़े सपने, अच्छे दिन बतलाए, पर भूख किसी की मिटा ना पाए। चाहिए ना भीख, ना दान, बस ना छीनो आत्मसम्मान। हम तो बस प्रवासी हैं, क्या इस देश के वासी हैं?
Well, good evening and thank you for joining us. This is a really important conversation, and I think it's important because we tend to forget, very quickly what has happened in the recent past, and we're running that risk perhaps in India. My guest today, Anshu Gupta, the founder of Goonj. I've had several conversations with Anshu in the past. We've talked about disasters, we've talked about the work that Goonj is doing and how people across the country can help out. And of course, Kireet Khurana, who is a director and a storyteller. But what these two gentlemen have in common right now are these beautiful films that they both made about the lockdown and about the workers who suffered in that lockdown. I keep saying this because we should never allow ourselves to forget it. COVID as a virus happened to every country in the world. The same virus with the same intensity affected every country in the world. We were the only country who also had a humanitarian crisis running alongside. Nowhere else in the world was such a crisis reported. Not even our poorest neighbors in Asia or Africa or anywhere else in the world did they have something like this. Whether the decision making was right or wrong is perhaps, investigation for people in establishment. But as citizens, as fellow citizens, did we fail in the job that we had to do for those who work with us, those who work for us, those who work alongside us, those who coexist in our cities? What was that failure? I believe that both of these films ask those questions in a very poignant way. I know that the organizers had some portions of those films ready. If we could play out some of that for our audience who haven't seen it, and then of course you could visit YouTube where the films are both available and you can watch them multiple times as I have. If we can just play out clips of those films, please. Okay, all right. We'll continue with the conversation. Let me just tell our audience then if they want to take a look at it. The film that Kireet Khurana has made is called Pravasi. You can find it on YouTube. And Anshu's film is called Safar. You can find it on YouTube as well. They're both voiced by Tapsi Pallu. Very, very beautiful films. Thank you both for agreeing to be part of this conversation and for the work that you have done. Kireet, if I may start with you. Obviously, at that time, everybody during the lockdown was trying to deal with what was happening. A lot of people were saying, what can I do? At what point did you decide to use your talents as a storyteller, a filmmaker, to ask those questions? And how did you come about making that film?
Oh, I've been involved with making social films for a long time now. In fact, all the 6 national awards that you mentioned about are in the zone of social causes, various social causes of child sexual abuse or child rights or child labor or whatever. Generally speaking, I think films are a medium by which you can convey a lot of things, and they can create a lot of impact in society. And I've seen that with some of my films in the past. Initially, when the lockdown was there, I felt a great sense of helplessness because, unlike other volunteers like Anshu and many other friends of mine who could go out and volunteer, I did not have the means or the wherewithal. I couldn't just go out and volunteer, or I couldn't just be out there on the streets. I didn't know how to go about it, even though people were kind of talking about it on social media and stuff like that. I felt a great sense of helplessness, and I also felt that no matter how much work good Samaritans like Anshu would put in, it would never be enough. I mean, the system had just given way, and it was, like you said, it was unprecedented, and India saw this mass exodus, and those images were absolutely indelible. And I knew that the next thing it would happen was they would pick up some other community or some other distraction and then build a whole story around it to kind of distract from the real issues. So I thought it is important for this to be etched in the memory for a long time. And therefore, I took the most indelible images of the lockdown that we saw, the migrants walking, and I decided to string it together in one narrative and put it together for everybody to see for posterity. Again, I thought that the reach for a short film is limited, so therefore it was important that if a celebrity also endorses the thing or voices the thing, it'll be good for us. The moment I shared it with Tapsi, I made the film and I shared it with Tapsi. I said, "Would you like to voice?" She instantly messaged back, "Sure," she said, "Sure, absolutely, I would love to do this." So it was very compelling, even at the stage where before we actually got it out there. And of course, once Tapsi got on board, the amplification of the whole thing to reach out to about 30-40 million people, and maybe a lot more because it was shared on WhatsApp and social media like big time. So the film actually managed to reach out. The important thing here was also not to take sides. And what I thought was missing, this is a common theme in all the 3 films that we have done, Pravasi, Safar, and Samvad, is that what's really missing in the nation is not the divisiveness necessarily, but what is missing is logic, is missing is empathy. And how do you bring empathy to, how do you draw people's attention to a common humanity and a common empathy and say, okay, at least we agree on this. We may not agree on the choice of leaders, or we may not agree on the choice of the decisions they are made, or whatever it may be. But at least we agree that humanity needs to survive, and this what is happening is inhuman. Can we agree on that? And you'd be surprised, Faye, that the entire thing was so well received that nobody, I mean, out of thousands of likes, maybe 10 or 15 or 20 people dislike the videos, which is quite extraordinary for the kind of video with that kind of virality. So it was very satisfying in that sense that across the board everybody accepted the narrative, and in my own small way maybe I was able to build some empathy.
What I found fascinating about that video is, and you only realize when you watch it, is that it's in first person. It's the voice of the worker.
Right.
So is Suffer, but
Yes.
it's the voice of the worker.
Yeah.
And this entire, as being part of the media, the entire system of coverage of that event was sort of a fishbowl coverage, right? There were people watching from the outside.
Correct.
And we didn't really hear the voices or the point of view, except for maybe some journalists who asked people and they said, "Ha, main yahan se hu, main udhar ja raha hu, I'm walking for this much time, I'm going to walk up to there." But the actual pain and anguish was never tapped into. So it almost feels like we're hearing their voices for the first time. Was that a conscious decision as well, to sort of tap into, what the emotions might be that we really didn't consider up till then?
See, when I write, or when any writer worth his salt writes, essentially you have to write with your heart in your sleeve. You have to feel the emotions, and of course, you have to understand that people will watch your video or watch your film coming with their own point of view and their own prejudices and their own mindsets, and it may not even your emotions may not even reach out to them, or it will not even resonate. But to be true to yourself, or to be true, you have maximum reach, and you have maximum possibility of reaching out with your message only when you write with your heart in your sleeve. And I was just thinking about, when I was writing those words, I was just thinking about, what are these guys thinking about? What are they actually thinking? And what is going on in their minds right now? Are we not even the citizens of this country? हम तो बस प्रवासी हैं, क्या इस देश के वासी हैं? We're asking a question. So we're not even saying, you've thrown us, you've done this, you've done that. No, it is just simple asking questions. Do we not deserve basic dignity? Do we not deserve basic decency? Do we not deserve basic? Uh, can you even look at us? And it's the same thing that I resonated so strongly with Anshu's poem when I read it, Kovidi. So when he called me back, he said, "Wow, I love it." And Anshu I said, of course, I would love to do it, because his poem had exactly the same resonance in a different way. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do Suffer, because again, that was again in the first person. And I think, that quality of being the first person, narrating it from the heart. Again, Anshu, obviously being on the field, he has written it with his experience. I've written it sitting in my home, trying to visualize things. But Anshu's poem, he's written it with his experience. He's actually seen it. I've seen it on television. I've not. I mean, of course, I've witnessed people around my neighborhood, but he's actually seen thousands of them.
Yeah. So on that note, let me bring in Anshu. Anshu, thank you for speaking with us. Again, the film that you made called Suffer asks a very important question. It says basically, why did you let this happen? I've built your roads, I've cleaned your home, I've done all of your work, I've built the house that you live in. Why didn't you stop this? Why didn't you let this happen? It's a very sharp question, and I wanted to ask you also, given the work that you do from Goonj.
So I think in the last few months, I've been talking about it, that as Goonj, or as an individual, or as someone who also has a little bit of kida of journalism and a camera in hand, I've been traveling, and I've been there in almost all the disasters. And when you are in the disasters, you see distress, you see destruction, you see dead bodies, and you capture that. But what I found in March and April, that obviously we were next to the reality. We were getting all kind of news from all across, because we have a pan-India network of, because of our work, because of a very large scale partnership, and obviously immediate action what we wanted to take. But personally, it was somewhere affecting a lot, because the whole question which I was asking, and which I think I penned down in Safar and in Kovidi also, that these are the same people because of whom we are sitting in, inside our homes. These are the same people who made houses for us. These are the same people who have been giving us food for decades and for centuries. And what kind of fabric is this in the society, that no one even took a minute to decide? And whatever they added in their life in the last 10 years, 15 years, they were absolutely ready to leave all that. And they started walking. So right from the press wala to the sabji wala to every single support person was walking. I mean, what happened to the topmost leaders or the industrialists or the builders or any kind of person who is sitting with so much of money or power that they actually didn't trust anyone. So if have we really built that kind of society? So to be honest, I also there was a point, and it's a very emotional part that I started questioning that what kind of work even we are doing if we are not able to build that trust with the next door neighbors, despite our all bad intentions and all. I mean, the fact remains that none of the Goonj person really was on the road. Although the fact remains that out of almost 1,000 people, almost 80% people come in that income bracket. But because the fabric was strong, no one even called up to find out whether we are going to pay them salary or not. Because the fabric is strong. But do we have that fabric in the society? Or we will keep having this standard that I want to live and I want other people to survive, or or we will just labeling them migrant laborers. And the way we behaved, I mean, I have been questioning this, that how come the police was not cooperating. What were these people asking for? They just wanted to go home. I mean, we all were safe, we all were secure because we were at home, nothing else. Or we were at a place where we were feeling secured or loved. I mean, the common sentiment, Faye, I think you must have heard as a journalist many times, कि आप क्यों जा रहे हैं, आप एक normal I think in a better language you try to ask people, but I have heard it many times कि हम कम से कम वहाँ अपनों के बीच में तो मरेंगे, that will die with our own people. It has come to that level, the sentiment, and we are stopping them to do that also. I think obviously it puts a lot of question, it raises a lot of question, and that's how this entire COVID started happening. And then when I saw Pravasi, what a wonderful imagination and presentation, and that's where me and Kireet got into it, and somehow the suffer happened. Whole lot of chain had to happen, but I think in the pro bono type, these are very complicated one. It is Kireet's lot of hard work and perseverance that it happened. To be honest. You know?
I do want to ask you, the topic of this conversation is also about dignity. There's also dignity in justice. And it seems almost as if we have forgotten what happened in March and April and just moved on, like it never happened. There are now newspaper articles saying most of those workers have come back to the cities. People are talking about how the economy is now opening up and we're recovering. It's almost as if it was a bad dream and it didn't happen. Do you believe that we should prevent ourselves as society? Again, I'm not questioning government here, but as society, should we prevent ourselves from forgetting that mistake that we made?
People might not like it, but the fact remains that we are one of the most self-centered society in any case. All the people who were on the road, in any case, were there. It's not that they suddenly came from somewhere. So when you talk about the homeless, when you talk about the rickshaw guys and all that kind of thing, hundreds and thousands of people in every single city, not only in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, we just ignore. So the fact remains that for large number of us, the financially poor rural person doesn't exist. Financially poor urban person we need for our own life, as a support person, as the cheap labor. So we can argue that why are you charging 5 rupees or 6 rupees for ironing one cloth, it should be 4 rupees, whatever. I mean, there are cases where people literally ask their full-time house help to leave, although the fact remains that house help had a risk from us,
Not the other way around.
not the other way around. But because this is how we perceive, this is how we have divided the society in any case. So when in the normal life we are not worried or careful about the dignity of people, why do we think and how do we think that in disaster we will be really, really careful about it? That's why I'm talking more about the fabric part of it. That have we really built a society where we respect each other? But we don't. or we value each other, but we don't. And I'm talking about the majority of it, mine. I mean, the pandemic also gave us a very beautiful picture of hundreds and thousands of people who were out on the roads and who were doing their best to make sure that no one dies of hunger. I mean, I know people who were really, running their kitchen with 4 cookers, 5 cookers, getting cookers from neighbors also, cooking at 5:30 in the morning, and then 7 o'clock they were out on the road to give food in whatever way they were able to do that. Even in the lockdown, somehow they were able to manage the packing material. I don't know what kind of pains these people took, and that's why I think people were able to survive. It was largely because of the civil society organization, the NGOs, as earlier one of the earlier speaker also spoke in the other session, and the individuals. You had a mix of it, but yes, one thing which people need to understand, that the words like donor beneficiary, it is high time that it all this go out. I mean, it's so ironical that every single person who made house for me was on the road as homeless, and the farmers who have been feeding me are in the queue to receive food, and then we call them beneficiary, although we are the constant beneficiaries of
Yes.
that food. So we need to understand that the dignity and value and love. This is the time that we understand and we pay back.
Kireet, in the film Pravasi, you also, I mean, it finally talks about Atma Samman, which is self-respect or dignity, or the lack of it. Do you also agree that we're a selfish, perhaps, society designed, uh, for those who thrive and those who just barely survive, and there's no bridge between the two? Kireet, do we have you?
Sorry. Yeah. So
Yeah, go ahead.
it's kind of strange when the lockdown happened, and it was something that the world hadn't seen, and everybody was talking about this beginning of this new era, or this new era in humanity will suddenly flower, and all of a sudden all the people who are selfish and who are self-centered and greedy will suddenly vanish from the face of the earth, and it'll give way to gratitude, humanity, and all the virtuous aspects, because people have time to reflect sitting at home. What actually has happened is that demagogues have used this time to pass draconian laws across the world, right? We know that they have used this time because people locked in. They have, in Europe, it has happened, in Asia, it has happened, that they have used this time and they've taken advantage of the fact that people can't get out of their homes. And so I don't know how this system is going to change, considering the fact that we have issues like global warming, and we will collectively threaten as humanity that we will not no longer exist after 100 years. The earth will be there, but we may not be there. It's ridiculous how we are behaving, and it's ridiculous how selfish some of us are, and how we are just so much in self-preservation that we're forgetting that we are basically it's mutually assured destruction that is happening. While this, so it's quite ridiculous what actually is happening. It's unfathomable to a large extent, and purely my films come from there also to some extent.
So we have a question for both of you, but Kireet first. This is a question from Arpita, who says, do you feel that the issues remain the same, or have they grown deeper, and is there any silver lining?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. The kind of people I deal with are all nice people. They are people who respect humanity, who respect the dignity of others. So maybe I'm living in my own echo chamber. I've deleted a lot of friends who have been insensitive, and that's pretty much what happens with a lot of people like us. After a while, it gets so vitriolic, it gets so poisonous that you kind of want to delete individuals out of your life. And so I don't know. I really don't know the answer, Faye. I don't know we are heading in a good space or not. Of course, with Trump going, it's a big relief for me, to be very honest. But there's so many more demagogues that need to fall, and we need to do it quickly because Earth is running out of time. That is what the real challenge is. So I don't know.
Anshu, a question for you. What is your suggestion to government, apart from financial support, for the rehabilitation of workers to prevent this sort of impact in the future? A repeat of what happened during the lockdown.
So the laws certainly need to be in favor of the people, fine, and the industries and all other people need to be answerable that how come it happened, why did they leave people, all this contractual business of hiring people and all that kind of thing. I mean, to be honest, this is how we are exploiting people that way. So I think we certainly need to look into the behavior of a lot of people in this particular pandemic, including the government agencies and other agencies, and find out that what went wrong. I think, Faye, the biggest problem, what has happened, like Kireet, I was also very hopeful in the initial phase. Unfortunately, that things will change, people will reflect, people will do something good, but as of now, you see the same way we are operating, the way we were operating earlier. I mean, there's hardly any change.
In fact, if we're talking about writing laws that are pro-worker, governments have actually done the opposite of that.
It has gone wrong that way. It has gone wrong. So
I think learning has not
they are actually coming in a much more stressed atmosphere. And because they are coming with a lot of issues now, the issue of survival, they will be further exploited, which we see happening now in many other industries, or even on the labor chalks. That the negotiations are complete. The language of negotiation is completely changed. So that certainly needs to change, for sure. And government, certainly all the governments. I mean, one thing which we need to understand that in our life, on any given point, even every inch of the land of this country is actually where we elect 3 to 4 people. Wo Gram Pradhan to Nagarpalika person to MLA to MP. So there are 3-4 elected people elected by me in every single inch of space where I live. So I mean, these people are answerable, not only the industry or other people. These people are also answerable for the welfare of the common people of the nation.
Right. Both Kireet and Anshu, thank you so much for speaking with me. I'm told we have run out of time, but I could easily spend another half an hour talking to both of you about the work that you have done and about where each of us could perhaps change within our circle of influence. It's one thing to wait for like bigger, larger change to come in the world and the country, but you can change inside your home. You can change the way you deal with the people who work for you and with you. And that is one step closer. You can set an example. You can maybe help people who work with you understand their rights, which is a huge thing that you can do in this country. You can explain to them that as equal citizens, although we never treat them as equal citizens of this country, they are entitled to rights, they are entitled to certain benefits. And the job that you can do is to explain that to them. We are going to leave you with the Suffer video, which you can see. And like I said, you can access this on YouTube. Once you watch it, you wind up going back to it many times. So take a look at it, and I hope the message gets through and we can actually begin now to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Faye. Pleasure.
सुनो, हमने तो कभी नहीं कहा कि जिन मकानों में तुम बसे हो वो हमने बनाए हैं। हमने तो कभी नहीं जताया कि गाड़ियां दौड़ती हैं तुम्हारी जिन सड़कों पर वो हमने बिछाई हैं। हमने तो कभी बोला ही नहीं कि जिस रिक्शा में तुम बैठते हो वो हमारे फेफड़े खींचते हैं। मैं जानता हूं ढूंढ रहे हो मुझे उस बंद नाली को खोलने के लिए, वो फैक्ट्री की बेजान मशीनों के लिए, रात को जागते रहो की आवाज के लिए, गाड़ी पर जमी मिट्टी को धोने के लिए। और मुझे पता है बाबूजी को मेरे हाथ के ही गोभी के पराठे पसंद हैं। तुम्हें बर्तन धोने से कितनी कोफ्त है। हम तो अब भी सोचते हैं फिर जाने क्यों दिया, क्यों छोड़ा सड़कों पर, क्यों बस और ट्रेन बंद थी, लाठियां क्यों चली हम पर, यूं चले हम हफ्तों तक भूखे प्यासे। हमने तो कभी नहीं कहा कि हम सिर्फ काम पर याद आते हैं। हमने तो ना स्कूल मांगे, ना सड़क, ना गाड़ियां, ना पक्की छत। फिर एक बार इशारे से फोन करके आवाज देकर रुका तो होता इस अनचाहे सफर से पहले।